Hello, good morning, everyone. So, on this occasion, I want to submit my final project assignment, my poetry appreciations. My name is Alifio Ramadan from Binasaran Informatica University and in class 33 for A25, student of English literature. So, in this assignment, the first, we should analyze the poems by Robert Frost with title Out Out. Before I analyze it, I read the poems first. So let's start it. I read the poems. Out Out by Robert Frost. The bus so snarled and rattled in the yard, and matte dust and dropped stuff like sticks of wood. Sweet sand stuff when the breeze drove across it. And from there does the leaf I could count. 5 mountain strands and one behind the other. Under the sunset far into farmland, and the saw snarled and rattled, snarled and rattled, as it ran light or had to bear a load. And nothing happened, they was all about done. Call it a day, I wish they might have said, to please the boy by giving him the half hour. That a boy counts so much when safe from work. His sister stood beside him in her apron to tell them super. At the word the soul, as if to prove so news with Superman, laughed out at the boy's hand, or seemed to lift. He must have given the hand, however. It was neither refused the meeting, but the hand. The boy's first outery was a burst of Allah as he swung toward them, holding up the hand. Half in appeal, but half is to keep the life from spilling. Then the boy saw all, since he was old enough to know big boy doing a man's work, tough a child at hurt. He saw all spoiled, don't let him cut my hand off. The doctor when he comes, don't let him, sister. So, but the hand was gone already. The doctor put him in the dark of Edos. He lay and puffed his lips out with his breath, and then the watcher at his post took fright. No one believed. They listened at his heart, little less nothing, and that ended. Okay, so we analyze it, analyze of out. The first lines 1 to 6. In the first stanza of Out, the speaker begins by describing through vibrant, sound-rich adjectives the presence of a buzz. So, as a personific through its snarling like animals and rattling as if out of control or is close to falling apart. Then it appears to move on its own. It makes dust and drops toppling sticks of wood. From these first lines, a reader can determine that the young boy who is operating the machine is cutting wood for the family stock. In the next 4 lines, Frost's utilities the reader sends in the order to expand the scene. If one present alongside the young man, they would be able to smell the sweet smell of the wood. It's brought up and away from the wood by the breeze around the boy, and he saw he lived. His eyes, there are 5 mountains range one behind the other. Frost gets very specific in the 6th line, placing the scene in Virginia, United States. Line 7 to 12. In an immediate and shocking juxtaposition with the peaceful mountain scene, the speaker returns to the show in the next line of Out. Repetition is used to recreate the snarling and rattling of the machine. It interrupts and landscape resetting its presence and its place as the main focus of the text. The speaker describes the way it moves back and forth between light and heavy lots of wood. It seemed at this point as tough it can handle the job that is been set out for it. Turned out the first portion of the day, nothing happened. It wasn't not it wasn't until the end of the day in which the boy attention started to drift. The speaker, knowing what happened next, they said that the wishes they might have sighed or to please the boy giving him sometime off at the end of the day, but unfortunately the day didn't happen. Lines 13 to 18. It's in the text of section of Out that the climax of the poem takes shape. The sister comes to stand beside her brother and tell him that it's time to stop work and come in half a super. As if reacting to the sister words, the soul jumps and cuts the body hand off. Frost again utilizes personification to make to seem as tough the soul is an animal, acting through its own will. There is an interesting moment in the line 17 and 18 in which the speaker goes back and forth between the soul living at the hand or the hand giving itself up to the soul. Either way, he determines it doesn't matter. The meaning was accepted, was it, by both parties. Next lines 19 to 26. Rather than cry out in pain or surprise, the boy lets out rueful laugh. When he saw the handful, he quickly turns toward the house and his family holding up the hand. Despite what seemed like an effort to keep life from spilling from his severed appendage, the hand was completely separated from his body. The boy sat in his mind somewhere between childhood and adulthood. He was old enough to know that all was spoiled. Despite this, he exclaims to his sisters, asking that when the doctor comes, the direct street came from cutting off his hand. Perhaps he spoke in shock or ignorance, but as the 27 line states, the hand was gone already. Lines 27 to 34. When the doctor did come in the last time of out, he gave the boy other as an anesthetic, and the watcher who was in charge of monitoring the boy pulse took right. All of a sudden, the boy went from puffing his lips with his breath to nothing. His heart stopped through a progression with little less nothing, and that ended. All the build up to his moment cases, and this child is dead. This is mirrored through reaction of those around the boy. They were in debt, so they went back to their affairs. Frost uses punctuation to good effect in this latter part of the poem. The dashes build suspense as do the short sentence, especially little as nothing, and then ended here and the previous line is sense of panic. But one is his establish that the boy in has indeed a child. The line no more built and there seems almost Kelly stripped out the point. The speaker has to guess that the boy parents are to blame for his ultimately death. And this seems to be confirmed in this abrupt ending. It implies that the farmers and community don't have the luxury of time to stop and grieve the loss of this child, and simply move on. In one sense, he could be admiring their stoicism and commitment to their labor. However, given earlier statements in this poem, it's more likely that he feels that they are cold and indifferent. The dominant feeling is one sympathy for the lost boy. the tractor form. This narrative poem is one long stanza written in unhymned iambic pentameter. In the absence of any formal rhyme, some rhyme can still be identified in repetition of the words so, hand, and boy, which are emphasized throughout. The title is taken from Macbeth's soliloquy, out, brief candle in which ponders the brevity and pointlessness of life. So, the next, an intrinsic. The poem was first published in July of 1916 in McClure. It was later included in his collection Mountain Interval, published that same year. I thought was inspired by the true story of young boy Raymond Tracy Fitzgerald, who died in an accident of a young age. It's generally thought that the title is an allusion to the famous line in Shakespeare's Macbeth. Out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player. Recreates a true life tale in which a boy loses his hand in an accident, the shock of which goes on to kill him. Sympathy is the dominant tone of the poem. The poem begins with the speaker describing the setting. A young boy is outside cutting wood with a powerful industrial saw against the backdrop of mountainscape. Partway through the text, he saw jumps and cuts off the boy's hand. He is taken to the doctor, who gives him ether. Then all of a sudden he dies. The historical context. Out is found in Frost's anthology, Mountain Interval, which was published in 1916. It is that Frost wrote this poem on response to an account of young boy deaths which was reported in a local newspaper in March 1901. Frost was often described as being a farmer poet who could have been seen as an outsider in his rural community, Massachusetts. This poem contains some social commentary by Frost, who often had an uneasy relationship with local farmers, given that he could be seen as pretentious and sketching about their perceived lack of culture and creativity, of course. Two such examples of criticisms can be seen in this poem. The first being in line 4, was it? And from their dust their lifted eyes could count 5 mountain branches, one behind the other. Here, Frost seems to imply that he is one of the few in his community who takes in the beauty of the New England landscape. So, the message I get from the Out by Robert Frost is Out tells the tragic story of a boy injured in an accident. Just uh just as he was getting ready to go to dinner, his arm got caught in a jigsaw puzzle. He lost his hand, then he died from blood loss. This poem does a stark reminder of fragility of life and that tragedy can happen to anyone at any time. So it's the message. So in the last part, I met some poems that I create with myself. Um, the title is Overseeing Shadow. It's by Alifio. I read the poems. Let me take shades and turn away all my longing under the shade of your soul tree, the soul that brings breezes serenity. I want to groan at every fanfare that fell near my eyelids. The fruit of your tree is ripe, and your friends bring watery sable to cool all the tears of my soul. If it was you, I would carry the water to the shore. While I enjoy the fruit of your tree, every time I pull over when I can no longer halt this longing in front of him. Help me who can shrink the circle shadows of my story with you. The more the light disappears from the twilight, the more I drift away in misery. So the poems that contains the personification and metaphor, of course. So this the presentation is my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Good morning. Lovely.